method where he's just going to enter 26 times the same question in your guys' live stream. Yo, yo, yo.
What's up? We're in the midst of a conversation, and I realized that we're a little bit behind because our little countdown clock had expired, and we were kind of in the middle of the discussion with Dean. We have Dean here from 5 Star down below. What's going on, Dean?
It's my fault. I'll blame myself.
No, it's not your fault. No. You're welcome to continue on. Rob is over this way because if I point the right way, it shows wrong. What's going on, Rob?
What's up?
And we have one more guest that's trying to join us that is having some technical difficulties. So we'll see if Kip from Kicker is going to be able to join us. Hopefully he will be able to. But the show must go on.
You didn't say anything about the cool Nakamichi shirt, by the way.
Is that new Nakamichi or old Nakamichi?
No, this is new Nakamichi.
Oh, okay.
So we're working with them right now to do some product training video type, tutorials and review type stuff. So
cool.
we have the DSP. They have a. You're gonna like this, Rob, because they have a 6-in 12-out DSP that is super affordable, and that POS thing that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, Dayton, whatever you want to call it. You would love this because it's. I think it's about, what's the Dayton? $150.
Yeah, 150.
So this is $280. Software, as far as like if you can wrap your head around the software that the Dayton has, then you're gonna love this because it's basically built on the same kernel that theirs is built on. Yeah. Just it's like a 31 band per channel EQ, but it's super sexy and it has all the silly little plugins. There's another manufacturer that has a DSP that is extremely similar to it. Almost identical to it. But we won't talk about that.
Well, I got some bones to pick with the Dayton for sure. Like when you hook it
all
up,
of it?
It's like they have like a mixer section in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you doing that? We have the output here.
Well, you have to do that because you have to think of it more on a bigger. Okay, for one thing, the Dayton, it sucks because there's only 4 inputs, so there's no need for a mixer.
Yeah.
But software platform is made to be bigger. So like on this, it's a 6 input. So you have to set up that. So let's say you have 12 outputs, you have 6 inputs or 4 inputs. You have to tell each channel what it's going to be doing. So if let's say channel 1 and 2 are going to be doing tweeters, 3 and 4 are going to be doing mid-range, and 5 and 6 are going to be doing mid-bass, and you're going to be feeding them all off of channel 1 and 2, you need that mixer to tell driver's front to be 1, 3, 7 or whatever, you get it, and then 2, 4. Why didn't I do that one? That was way easier. So that's what the mixer is for. But on that little processor, it's like,
that's why it had me all off because the mixer was down like 20%.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned the radio on. I'm like, something's not right.
Yeah,
that's with that.
Their mixer is kind of that platform's mixer is kind of cool though, because let's say you want to do a fake center, which is right plus left, that is just kind of annoying but kind of cool. You can just bring the mixers both up 50% and kind of get not really a center channel, but a center channel. It's also good. There's a lot of neat things you can do with the mixer, but yeah, it is one of those things where it's like if you don't know what you're looking for, you're like, oh crap. But remember, there's 4 things to every DSP. Do you know the 4 things?
No, I don't.
All right, so every DSP has to have an EQ for every channel. So if it's just got a global EQ, meaning one EQ to rule them all, kind of like that Pioneer thing, that's not really a DSP. That's just a really cool EQ. So if you have 5 bands, you need 5 bands of equalization times however many channels they want to give you, 5, 10, 31, whatever. Then you need a volume control for every channel. So you have to be able to go in and adjust every single channel. You need obviously time delay for every channel, and then you need a crossover for every channel. So every DSP should have those features. And if they don't have all those features, then it's really not, in my mind, a true DSP. It's just kind of a toy.
Yeah, like the 80 PRS or PRS.
It's only like 20 years old, so we can't really complain at this point, right?
Didn't you guys catch the video we did on the GS9 from Sony?
I haven't seen it yet, but it's in my list to watch.
So just read the comments; they're the best. Because like I knew as soon as we did this, I was sitting there going, I need to come up with a Derek title. Because it's like you're gonna just come up with something that's just gonna be so clickbaity. And I was
the best head unit ever.
And that's what I said. And I knew that the Pioneer guys were gonna blow their heads just like. And I was like, I don't care. I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, you're gonna tell me how great your PRS-80 is to this $1,500. And there was one guy that actually called it right on when he said so what you're basically telling me is it's a really expensive DAC with a volume knob. And I go, yeah, that's exactly it.
Well, those aluminum knobs are pretty expensive nowadays. You get the machined aluminum, so
just go steal some wire and melt it down.
There we go.
There's plenty of aluminum wire we all don't want. We can just go hit someone, get it out of Rob's car.
Yeah. Oh, you heard that too.
That was a low blow with the CCA joke.
Yeah.
Well, listen, everybody, we kind of started off here without properly introducing our guest tonight. We have Dean from 5 Star Car Stereo, which is down in what part of, is it Clearwater, Florida?
Clearwater, Florida. Yeah.
Clearwater, Florida. And Dean does a show, him and Fernando. They do more videos probably than anybody else in the industry. They answer questions nonstop. I don't know how Dean sleeps because you put out, how many videos a week do you put out? You put out like 3 or 4, maybe 5 videos a week?
So we try to do 3 original contents, and then 2 right now are pre-recorded. So like one on YouTube is a rebroadcast of the live Facebook show, and then right now we're doing a rebroadcast of the Instagram show. So we take all the Instagram stuff and compile those together. I don't know how much longer that one's going to last because now that everything on Instagram goes to Instagram TV, that's really changed. But before it would disappear after 24 hours, but now it stays up. So we're kind of like, we can almost get rid of that show. So, but right now there's really nothing to fill it. So we're kind of working on some original content that might go into that. But we try to have at least 3 original contents a week. Plus,
and I struggle to have one.
Yeah,
like,
I do too.
I got to do this one video.
I do too. You kick butt, man. You really, I mean, I probably send a lot of people your way because they ask me, hey, what should I put in my 2019 Dodge Ram quad cab? I'm like, ask Dean.
Yes. And that brings us to the topic of the show.
That brings us to the topic of the show.
What has the internet done for, or whatever? What
so,
the internet done for audio?
Rob and I talked about this. We always, talk about what kind of show we want to do and, maybe who we want to have on. But I thought about, I want to have some of the people from the industry and talk about how this COVID thing has affected everybody. But then I thought, well, there's more going on to life than COVID. Obviously, it's affecting everybody. But
that show, though.
Yeah, well, I thought, talking about how YouTube and social media has affected the car audio industry. Obviously, you've been doing it for so long. You did it way before, social media was really a thing. I mean, they might have had email back then, but they're not really the Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, that type thing. So you've gotten to see kind of the progression over the years, going from the magazines everybody used to want to have to the forums that everybody used to be on, now the Facebooks and the YouTubes and the Twitters and all that. So, yeah, I mean, what do you think about the impact of YouTube to the car audio industry? Has it been a good thing? Has it been a bad thing? Has it been a little bit of both?
First off, I want to say I really do miss the magazines. I subscribe to one magazine right now, which is like Runner's Digest or something like that. And they send out like 6 episodes a year, and I have not read one of them. not one at all.
You can't find time to squeeze in to just read the magazines.
So I bought them because like we've been doing a lot of flying. So I was like, like this year I was supposed to be like 6 or 7 places we were going to. So I was like, hey man, 6 a year. I got this, bro. No. So every now and then I'll look to see shoes. But back to the original question. So I mean, when we started this, we had no idea what we were doing. Were just kind of like, let's just, like you were probably doing, Derek. You were just like, hey, let's make some videos and throw them up on TV and see what happens. I mean, we were making videos to put, when I worked at my other place, we were making little tiny videos that, we were shooting, and it was like, God, just trying to get like 60 seconds worth of video. You're there for like 3 or 4 hours because the software sucked. But the nice thing is that you could just go on to iTunes and like steal the first 60 seconds of the songs. So I was like, I don't own that song. I don't want to pay $1 for that. I'll just play this, and monetization wasn't even a thing. So it was like, you just, they would always be like an ad playing for something. You're like, I don't care, whatever. But, it was neat, and it got people into it. And it was always one of those things that I wanted to go back to. But, it wasn't until like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube became like a day-to-day thing. And it was like, well, we could do this. But we actually resisted YouTube first. But once we got on board, it was like trying to come up with what's the business model for this? How is this going to benefit the business? And then it became, all right, well, who cares about the business? How's this going to benefit us? Because it just grew way past what 5-star as a business even mattered or cared about. It still brings in a ton of traffic, but the channel and the business have kind of done this. Because they're not on the same page. But as far as what like YouTube, it's the modern day magazine, and you get to pick what you want your next page to be. I mean, it all or serve you some crap up, but you just go, nah. It's like last night I was watching EXO and what's his name?
Ed from
Ed, yes.
Spark Innovations.
And I was like, it popped up and I was like, God, I gotta watch this. So I was just staring at that. It was like, and then it rolled right into Soundman. And the funny thing about watching Soundman was one of the ads was for Sound Digital. And the guy doing the ad was a friend of mine. And so I'm sitting there going, I haven't seen him in like, I hadn't seen him since February because he lives in, I don't know, South America. And, we didn't get to go to any Knowledge Fest together. And it was like, I just sat there watching it. Just zoning out. Like, oh, and then Soundman came on. I was like, play the commercial again. Play the commercial again. But one of the, like, for us, what we've decided is that we want to approach the channel as more of a magazine. So, there's not just one focus on our channel. We don't want it to just be install diaries. We don't want it to just be live content, Q&A. We don't want it to be, we want it to be different things. So like we have like 6 different shows that we can throw together depending on what's in the install base. Like right now, there's an F-150 in the install bay. I think we've pretty much hammered the F-150. I don't think there's anything left on the F-150 we can talk about. But there's still audio related stuff we can talk about. So now it's the challenge of going, okay, we have guys that ask us hundreds of questions every week. What are those questions, and how with this car in here can we take those questions and make a video and answer those questions? So it's like, yeah, we'll do an install diary and everyone loves that, or we'll do a 911 install diaries and people just go crazy over those. But it's also being able to answer those simpler questions is kind of a new thing we're getting into. Hey, Kip.
Hello.
What's going on?
You made it on.
You got to just love it when it works for a tech guy.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey, don't feel bad. I didn't have Chrome on my computers, so I had to download that before it started. I'm going, please work.
I think it might have worked with the non-Chrome browser. It's just what they recommend. Mm-hmm. So, so I don't know how much of that you caught, Kip. Let me go ahead and introduce you. So Kip is, and give me your title, please. But I know you're with Kicker. You're marketing
associate director of marketing, business to business.
Okay, associate director of marketing. So Kip, thank you for taking the time to join us here. We had Dean had decided to get you and Dean on tonight because we wanted to kind of talk about the impact of YouTube, social media, things like that to the car audio industry. And I think with you being a marketing guy and Dean being, a guy that with his feet on the ground and putting out a lot of content, he knows how it affects the industry because he gets to talk with the consumers like daily. So we just posed a question to Dean about that. And what do you think about the impact of social media to the car audio industry?
Huge. I'll just use that one word to begin with. It's kind of nice to be here talking with Dean and kind of seeing him because he's probably tired of me stalking his feeds.
Oh no, dude, trust me, we love it. That's the funny thing. Like, and there again, when it as far as like stocking feeds and stuff like that. So for us, the install bay is just filled with equipment, and that's one of the things when we work with somebody like Kicker or Sound Digital or Nakamichi or whoever we're working with, we tell them just send us the equipment. Just let us have it. And they're like, what are you going to do with it? I'm like, it's going to sit over there in that corner. Because when Kip pops on, and it's like, it's Kip. It's like, talk about Kicker. And so we'll grab a Kicker product. When Chris Bennett pops on, it's like, oh, yeah, let's talk about audio control. When Casey from Morel comes on, it's like, oh, yeah, let's talk about Morel. So it kind of keeps us like focused. And also on the manufacturers. That's the one thing with us is, when it comes to the manufacturers, some manufacturers, like Kicker, get it. And some manufacturers just kind of go, and what are you going to do with it? And how's that going to work? And
when are you going to do that video? And how long is it going to be? And
and it's like, you know what? You guys be you. And that's when it's like, you just go, you know what? Let's just buy the product ourselves and we'll just do it and we'll do it our way and we'll just have fun with it. And forget having to, it's not even worth dealing with that company as a company. We just want the product. We don't have any relationship with JL Audio, but I really wanted a Tweak 88 because for one, we get a ton of questions on the Tweak 88. I've worked with them before, and it's just one of those products that's like, you get a million questions. So it's like, I just called up one of my friends that sells JL and I said, well, can you sell me a Tweak 88 for? And he's like, X amount of money. And I said, all right, we'll bring one over next time. I'll give you the cash.
I don't think you've ever had that problem with our company.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah, Kip and I've already had to talk about the quad box and how that ended up on your shipping. I can't even point the right way. This thing messes me up. How did that end up? Because the funny part was Rob and I were actually doing a 12-volt talk. And then Dean comes on there and is like, I got one and I unboxed it. I'm like, no, you didn't. He said, go look at the video.
I got the one.
The one. That's right. It's the one to rule them all.
I can say here, so there's plenty of witnesses. I did not know Dean was getting that box. That's a case of where R&D was doing something that marketing had no idea of. And what was ironic is I'm at home and I'm sitting here, my phone dinged. I look down, it's a live feed, of Dean and the guy.
Yeah.
And I go, quad box.
Where the hell did that come from?
Derek was in shock, man.
They unbolted it from the floor, to send it to Dean. I'm like, how did they get those bolts out? I thought you put the Loctite on that, Kip. Come on, what's wrong with you?
we got to get better at it. But to kind of get back to the topic you started, social media, in my opinion, is a very, very, very powerful tool today because it is an instant dissemination of information. And unfortunately, it can be the right information and it can be the wrong information. And, I'm admitting my age here, but I can go back to the days when I'm across on a retail counter and I've got the guy coming in. He wants to talk about the pyramid amplifier he's got down at the flea market that's 500 watts for $99. This problem isn't new. This has been around for years. And he would at least kind of have the conversation with you and you could try to steer him and teach him, but in the back of his mind he's always going, but it's on the box, it says 500 watts on the box, and you're just trying to talk me out of it because you don't sell pyramid. And it's, no, I'm really trying to help you. I don't care if you buy brand X, Y, or Z, but let's be honest, you're not going to buy a 500 watt amp today for $99. And so the YouTube world, and it's that instant gratification that people like, is they can go to YouTube, they can search up anything they want in 5 to 15 minutes. They can learn about something or how to do something rather quickly, which is great if it's the right information. And there are many, many times when I'll watch a stream, and I'm not referring to Dean because he's usually on point with what he's talking about. Usually. But I'll watch usually. I got to police him on the Kicker stuff to make sure, but but there are a lot of guys out there that are still spreading the same disinformation. And with it being on social, I think all of us can relate to back in the day, if you ever got on TV, that was your 15 minutes of fame. And now YouTube and Facebook Live and things like this are basically an ongoing 15 minutes of fame. And if it's here, it's got to be true, or else why would it be there? There's my stars and they're telling me. So I think there's a lot of responsibility, at least from a manufacturing standpoint, to make sure that the correct information is available. And then that responsibility actually shifts over to someone like a Dean and Fernando, who are really the people who are into car audio, look information are looking to. We got to make sure they've got the right information, because this has become the holy grail of getting the info on the product and how to do the install properly. And I just watched one today, and oh, by the way, if I hook up an amp to my factory radio, why is there no output anymore? You know, and you were talking about loading resistors and things like that.
Yeah.
You know,
well, it's funny you bring that up, because when we decided to go into the install bay, that was Fernando, because I didn't want to go in the install bay. I was like, let's just stick with unboxings. Let's just stick with the simple stuff. Let's just do that. And he's like, dude, we got to go in the bay. We got to go in the bay. And I was like, I don't want to go in the bay for two reasons. And this is the point of the show, was if we go into the bay, everyone we stand the risk of everyone in the industry, our peers, going, you guys are giving away all the secrets. You guys are jerks. You guys suck. And then we also run in going into the bay is, are we doing it? We knew how we did things, but now we're sharing that with everyone, and it opens yourself up to a ton of criticism. Fortunately, I'm really picky about the way I do things, so that hasn't been that much of it. Well, it hasn't been an issue, but it was really a scary proposition to do, and I fought it tooth and nail to the last minute. And actually, the first show we recorded in the install bay was the day he was on vacation.
Oh wow,
he wasn't even there. I was like, yeah. Hey, I remember while you were gone.
Well, I remember the format of your first shows, because if you go back in the Wayback Machine, I remember when Herb Kane came into work one day talking about you guys, and Herb was like, you guys got to watch these videos from this 5-star and what they're doing. They're doing some crazy stuff. And, it's back when you're doing the unboxing videos there at the counter, everything. And moving to the bay, it really changed up your format. But I think it changed it up for the better. There's plenty of unboxing things going on. Not I'm saying you shouldn't do unboxings. But I'll also say this, and this is not a backhanded compliment in any manner. I'm trying to be honest. No, there are very few people that I have met personally, and I've only met you in person like maybe twice, but I've seen the caliber of work that you do. And I would have no problem driving a personal vehicle of mine down to Florida, pulling it up to your shop, dropping the keys off and saying, when you're done, give me a call. Here's what I want installed. Just put it in.
Thank you.
I lived in a bay. I mean, that's where I started, back when I was 16, was, doing installs on the side and then moving into a bay and doing other stuff. Those who want to get bored can watch the video where we talked about all that later. But your skill set, you have honed it to a precision, a craftsman precision that I appreciate and I respect. And I can understand where a manufacturer might, like you said, say, oh, you're telling them the secrets. Don't tell them the secrets. The bottom line is, if a guy's a DIY, let's steer him the right way so he does it the right way with the right tools. And honestly, there are a lot of people who are on the fence. They're like, well, my buddy told me this is really easy to do. And when they watch a video like yours that shows how in depth it goes to do it right, a lot of those people are then convinced that, no, this is something I need to go seek a professional. This is beyond my capability. So I don't think showing people how to do it right is bad. I think it's actually the right thing to do, because you're either steering a DIY, which is good. It makes them use your products. It lowers their warranty return rate. Yeah. And it helps show people how in-depth this is. I mean, I know back from my day, some people thought you pulled the car around the back, you wiggled your nose and pulled the car back around front, and magically this gear just all installed in the car. And seeing that makes it real for people to understand, is this something I can tackle, or is this something I need a professional for?
So there's a guy named Scott Kelby. I don't know if you photographer nerds up there know who he is. And his whole thing is, he just, when it comes to photography, that was all the secrets. It's like, here's all the secrets. There's no secrets. And his theory was, if you got 12 guys in a semicircle and there's this beautiful thing to take a picture of, what you're going to end up with, they all know, you've told them all the secrets. You're going to end up with 12 different pictures.
Yep.
And they know everything, but some of them are going to suck. Some of them are going to be okay. Some of them are going to be amazing. You're going to, and that was the thought. It was like, why fight it? We'll just go into the bay, and, we've never pulled punches. If it's hard to do, we tell you it's hard to do. If it's easy to do, well, obviously it's easy to do, but, you know, we realize there's DIYs and there's professionals, because we know when we go to Knowledge Fest that, you know, the professionals come up to us and are like, dude, you saved my bacon, or man, I love the way you do that, or, you know, just something like that. And it's cool. And it's like that makes it all worthwhile to us, because, you know, if we can raise the standards of what the customer expects when they walk into a store, then it makes the industry as a whole better. And if you're a DIY guy, like I know lots of DIY guys that are like amazing installers, and you just look at the stuff and you do that yourself. God, man, wow. But you know, to me, you know, social media has definitely upped the game, so to speak. That's why we started like the Clean Wire Club on Facebook, 12-volt Clean Wire Club, was because we don't do a lot of fab. I mean, we do fab, but not like, we're not doing laser. I mean, we are doing laser, but we're not doing like vinyl panels and all this crazy stuff. But there's so many, and I'm sure you're on lots of those too, Kip. But it's like when one guy does something great, it's like you see every industry page has, it's like this guy did this, and it's the same picture through 6 groups, and you're like, okay, cool. Yes, you did really good. It's awesome. And then we're like, but there's no one for wiring. So we're like, screw it. Let's start this page.
Well, if there's anyone to start a page on clean wiring, it's definitely you.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, but that was, you know, sadly, it took us like 2 years to figure that one out. You know, because we were sitting there because we wanted to start a Facebook group, because like you do really well with your old school Facebook group, Derek. And we're like, I want to be like Derek. And so it was like, all right, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I talk about it all the time. I usually get my inspiration when I'm running. As Joe Hobart will tell you, Kip, when you get the phone call, it's me going, Joe, I have a question. And he's like, are you running again? I'm like, yeah, call me when you're done. I'll forget.
At least we can't blame that on the internet.
No. Yeah. But, you know, so you know, it was the thought of getting everyone involved that likes clean wiring, doesn't understand clean wiring. It's a place, you know, the idea was like, it's a place where, you know, it's like Cheers, but for clean wiring. You can ask questions. You can see how it's done. You know, you can like, how did you do that? You can ask those questions to those guys, or you can post your pictures and say, hey, I know this isn't great. What could I have done better? And it's funny, Jeff Smith popped in and someone said, Jeff Smith, Jesus. So this weekend we were at a car show together, living the quad life box, or quad box life. And so he was telling me about how a buddy of his was talking about using, man, I was using this flex loom. It took me like an hour to put this flex loom over this one stupid wire. And, you know, and we were both laughing because it's like, it's, you know, scrunch, zzz, scrunch, zzz, you know, and it's Fernando, you know, it's like Fernando and I are over there like, you know, because we cover every inch of wire and that stuff. And yeah, it's like, yeah, when we first started doing it, it was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But, you know, now it's easy.
Once you learn the tricks, it goes a lot quicker.
Yeah. So speaking of the quad box, if you want to talk about social aspects of it, like we do with Haley, we do a show called 5-Star After Dark every now and then. And so the quad box has been perfect for that because it's in her car. Oh, and we're just having a blast. Like the other night we did it, and I bought the SPL meter that you told me to get, Derek. And it hit like 146.3 or something like that. I mean, dude, windows were up, son. We were just like, I just stuck it on the window and was like, let's see what it does. And we had a parking lot full of kids, and you know, people. I didn't even talk. It was just like, you know, it's like, and these kids are like, you know, I got this little skinny 13-year-old sitting in the back seat, just like, you know, just like, and I'm like, this is great. This is what it's all about. In contrast, when Jeff and I went to the SQ show, it was like being in a library. You know, everyone's like, so on the way up, we didn't play it at all. Like, yes, exactly. Yeah. Hold on. Oh, how's mine sound today? And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against those guys. I have a blast going there. Yeah. And so we just talked on the way up because I knew it would just destroy our ears. And I want to hear these cars, you know, because that's what I like. I like that. I just the atmosphere isn't as fun as, like a kicker car. So on the way back, man, we pulled out of the parking lot. As soon as we pulled out of the parking lot, man, I don't know, he plugs in his iPhone and we just up to 30, baby. Let's let these things stink. And it's just, and we drove, it was about a 20-minute drive, and we drove that whole 20 minutes with that system up the whole way. I mean, it was just like, bye, and we're laughing our asses off. I mean, literally, there was one point where we were track changing, and we're just both just laughing our asses off like two little schoolgirls. It was hilarious.
So I'm getting the impression you kind of liked it.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I feel bad. It's got to go back.
Well, keep it as long as you can play with it until Joe says he has to have it back.
Oh no, yeah, or Aaron. Aaron texted me twice.
It's coming
back, right? Yeah, I'm like, relax, buddy. Relax.
We'll be there with the forklift soon, so be ready.
It'll be back with 4 blown woofers if we're doing it right. We're trying really hard.
It's great to hear that you're having that kind of fun in the car, because I'm pretty sure you heard it at CES when it was at the booth.
No,
you didn't get to.
I actually got a sneak peek when I was there last year. After I went and saw Bart and I signed my life away.
Right.
And they were like, "Hey, come here, I want to show you something." And I was like, I walked into the sound room and I go, "What is that?" And they're like, "Oh, Joe is. Oh yeah, that's a little 412 box we're gonna be making." And I'm like, "Wait, what? Seriously?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, Joe. He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna make that." And I was like for real? Like, you're gonna sell this to us? And he goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, like one on a pallet? Yeah, something like that." I was like,
exactly like that.
Yeah, I was like, all right. I mean, and then I got to not talk about it for the next 8 months.
That's cool that you're having fun with that. We're, we figured it was going to be a low production piece. We'd do a run. It would be something unique. The first ones that come in are actually going to be hand signed by Steve Irby on a plaque, which are going to be really cool for those. And we just figured deals would buy one to put in their showroom. They might sell it to a consumer. We didn't really expect a lot of buy-in. We've got a lot of buy-in.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the thing of it is it's what, $15.99?
I think $1,500. I think $15.99 is full MSRP. I think $14.99 is going to be UMAP.
Yeah. So either way, $1,500 at 5 o'clock or on a Monday morning, you can walk into a store, buy a 2400 watt amp, a battery, some 0 gauge wire, and that box, and be hitting 146 by the end of the day, and shaking your car all to pieces. And it's like, yeah, sure, somebody could build you a box. Yeah, I get it. But they're not going to build you this box, not in a day. I mean, this is double stacked birch on the top and bottom. It's all, it's got the braces. It's not going to happen in a day. And not be that quality. So it's like, yeah, it's just stupid. Why wouldn't you just buy this? I mean, even us, Paul goes to me, the owner was like, "Should we get this?" And I was like, as we're sitting there playing Techmaster in the parking lot, and the car's just going, I go, "I don't know. What do you think?" I mean, do you think we can sell it? I mean, if you think we could sell it, of course, order it. He's like, "Well," which means, am I going to sell it? Is what that turns out to be. But I'm like, every time you play for somebody, they just sit there and there's like, because everyone has heard 212s, and if you're not in the SPL scene, everyone's like, "Oh, I want a 12. I want 212s." And it's like, "Oh, that's cool." And then you play that, and it's like, "What the hell is that?" And we roll up in this little Ford, little SUV girl car that says "I love soccer" on the back. It's like, deuces, bro.
That's hilarious.
It is funny to think about, first off, when I heard that Kicker was making that box and actually going to sell it, I was kind of blown away too. But, you think about it, it's obviously right now a low production piece. Kip already said if they get a lot of interest, I'm sure they'll make more. But, it's kind of like one of these things that stir interest is the way I see it, right? So it's kind of like some manufacturers do it like Kicker did with the Warhorse years ago. You just do a product that, hey, this is cool. This brings light to us. And something like this is really not unattainable, I don't think, cost-wise. If you think about it, sure, yeah, you could get 4 Walmart 12s and go build a box out of 1/2-inch plywood or whatever and do it for a couple $100. But to see that a company of the Kickers history and status and everything, they're actually really serious about this. And to me, that's exciting to the industry to say, hey, we understand some guys like SPL and some guys don't want to invest, in the huge subwoofers that they buy that cost, $1,000 a piece or whatever. And I just think it's neat to see that you could have a whole package, like Dean said, bring your car in the morning, in the afternoon, bam, you're hitting mid 140s. And I don't know. I think it's cool. I think it's going to be a really positive impact. Even though it's extreme for a lot of people, sure. Some people don't have a vehicle big enough to fit it in, but I don't know. It's definitely exciting. And that's a little bit off of what, the intention of the show was. And I don't mind that we're talking about it all because I think it's very cool. But again,
we'll get back to it though, because the quad box, brought in a ton of social media for it. So we did 2 lives, and then we took that recording and we put it over on The Boring Life of Dean and Haley, which is the channel where Haley and I just do our thing. And so it got tons of play. Overall, it's just like the unboxing got tons of play. The 2 live shows got tons of play. And so, what this tells us is, so as somebody like us, we get clicks. We work with somebody like Kicker, and we get their message out for them. We help them get their message out, and we talk about cool stuff. And I'm easily excited. So when there's cool stuff involved, I get excited, and then it's really fun. And that's the neat thing now that, when we first started doing shows like this live, and we'd be like, yeah, we're going to do a live show and we're going to talk about your product. The manufacturers look at us and they'd be like, how's that going to work? And I'd be like, okay, so look at it like this. We just went to your training. You had to fly John out to us, and there was 25 guys in a room. You had to buy pizza. No one asked John any questions because they're all scared of him. And he told a bunch of stories, and then that was it. And 25 guys learned something. All right. We just had 100 people watching our live feed, and we told them the same stuff John did. I don't know. What do you think is better? Or you told 300 people or 2,000 people or 1,000 people. When we look at our numbers after our show, it's like, Jesus, man, there was 1,200 people, moving in and out throughout that conversation we had, and it's like, as a manufacturer, you just wish you could get your hands on that. It's like, oh, I would love 1,200 people. I mean, because if you think about it, there's 50 states. Okay. And if you're just thinking the United States, there's 50 states. So if somebody makes 100 pieces of equipment, that's 2 per state. Well, we all know there's more than 2 car stereo shops in a state. So, you look at somebody, you say, well, can I sell 4 for that state? So I talked to 100 people. Well, if you talk to 1,000 people, all these numbers add up and they get bigger and bigger. And it's like, all of a sudden now with social media, you're talking to this way bigger crowd. And you don't know who you're talking to, but I mean, I don't know how many messages you get, Derek or Rob, that'll say, hey, thanks to you guys, I'm back in car audio again, and as far as the manufacturers go, it's hard for them to get that because sometimes they're looked at as the bad guy, because they're lying to us. It's, oh my God, they're in Walmart.
Especially Kicker.
Yeah. Oh my God, they're in Walmart. So's Apple. Yeah, and we don't need to talk about it. Let's not talk about that. We've nailed that thing, and that gets me really pissed anyway. So we won't even talk about that. But that's one of those things that this whole social media thing is brought to us, and it's great. And for us, we actually teach a class at Knowledge Fest called the Digital Business Card. And the idea behind that is, how it works is you go to them and then you play, please, can we do this class? And then, 6 months later, the day before you need to do the class, like, hey, you're doing the class. And you're like, oh, crap, let's plan. But the idea for it was, we had people that come up to us and they'd ask us questions about the shows we did and how we get people and how does YouTube work. And it was like, why don't we just do this class? And what we'll do is we'll teach businesses the basic concept of how to use social media / us as videos to promote their business. And like, you don't have to have a bunch of subscribers on YouTube to use video content to make your business better. And we say you need 20 good videos. You need, as a business, you need 20 good videos that you can refer people to learn about your company and how things work. Like, that's it. And then people like us and you, Derek, and Rob, we can do things with equipment that they can't do with equipment, because it's like they don't want to open that can of worms. It's like, let's talk about aftershock. And it's like, or let's talk about distortion detection. And it's like, oh my God.
Well, and as Rockville will show you, it's not good to talk about another company's product and compare them directly.
Oh, no.
Especially live,
that's a bad look.
When you can't prove what you're trying to prove.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
All you need is more gain.
Yeah, more gain, and you're good.
Although, I do love those guys, but...
Yeah, they're, we're all misguided. We all call a bolt a nut or nut a bolt, whatever I did on that one thing that I'll never hear the end of.
Dude, you know what it was for me? It was phase and polarity.
Yeah.
Because for years and years, you grow up with subwoofer was moving backwards. It was out of phase. And I had this sound engineer just like lose his mind, we'll say, to keep it G-rated, about how it was like, it's not phase. It's polarity. You're getting the polarity wrong. I was like, but Kip, we call it out of phase. Hey, your subwoofer is out of phase. What's wrong with you?
You know, technically it is out of polarity, but you could also talk about it being 180 degrees out of phase. And that is also saying it correctly, but everyone's talking about polarity. And of course, I'll get on my soapbox because everyone, including the industry, including us, calls them subsonic filters. When it's not a subsonic filter, it's an infrasonic filter.
It's a high-pass filter. Let's just call it what it is.
That's fine if it's that, but subsonic is such an incorrect terminology for that. Yeah. But it's one of those terms our industry has adopted, and even though it's incorrect, we just kind of go with the flow.
Well, the other funny one is when you're talking to an engineer, which I'm sure you've done before, and you're talking about crossover, and they just look at you with this distasteful look on your face like, do you know what a crossover is? It's not that stupid thing you guys are using with the 80 hertz. That's not a crossover. The crossover is when this output device and this output, they meet. That's the crossover. And there's, you're just like, whoa, slow down, buddy. Somebody needs a Snickers.
Yeah. That's definitely the one negative part about doing all this is that everybody is an expert. But I mean, granted, I've learned a lot from people that leave comments and I do things wrong occasionally, and it's great to get that immediate feedback. But kind of going back to what we're talking about before, I can't stress. Well, no, I can't stress this enough that I just lost my train of thought. No, so we had a period of time after the magazine, and granted, there's still some magazines out there, but very few for car audio. There's a period of time between that and when social media kind of gained some
traction.
Thank you. I'm having a hard time tonight. And this is tea I'm drinking, by the way, just in case y'all are wondering. It's sweet. And that's the only thing we drink in North Carolina, just so you know. But anyway, if you think about that, it must have been a lot more difficult for a company like Kicker and JL and Rockford Fosgate and all the other companies to figure out how to communicate with their consumer during that time, right? Because if you didn't go into a car audio shop, if you didn't get a ESPN that might have had a Kicker ad in it, you didn't have that real direct connection that you have these days. We have a minimum of a dozen or more car audio channels that have at least 20 or 30,000 subscribers. So you have a lot of very direct consumers that are watching, and you just have, it's more of a direct connection. You know what I mean? Because when you lose the magazines, you don't have people in the magazines and seeing the Kicker products or whatever. And then you move to now where we actually have more engagement than we've ever had in the industry, in my opinion. And what were you going to say, Kip?
Let me tie into that because you brought up a lot of interesting points there. That you're correct. A company like us had to learn, and we're still learning. If anyone tells you they've got it all figured out, that's the line for the first liar.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you go back into the Wayback Machine and people who are into high performance car audio, we devoured front to cover car stereo electronics. We devoured 12 volt. I'm trying to think of the other one. There's 3 or 4 of them
Car
that were
stereo review.
Car stereo reviews.
Audio,
The other one,
sound, and security.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we would. And God, I wish I used to have every
Crutchfield.
single CA&E. Oh, Crutchfield. There's a good one. Crutchfield does a good
Pardon
one.
me.
If somebody
magazine just came in,
he's going to his safe over there to get out his old versions.
His old versions.
Sorry, Kip.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But that was really, back in that day, those magazines. You got to kind of stop and think that sometimes companies want to draw a line in the sand. They go, okay, these are our dealers and these are our consumers. But at the end of the day, dealers are consumers. The guy working in the install bay and the guy behind the sales counter is a consumer of that product. A lot of them got into it because it was a hobby, it was a passion, and they found a way to make a few shekels by actually selling to other people. So you're actually talking to both those people. And I know we talk about talking to the dealer and we talk about talking to the consumers, but really that line's blurred, because if you go back to the magazine days, guys in the shop in an install bay or doing sales would be reading the same magazines that a high-end enthusiast customer was reading so that he could learn, and he would walk into the shop and want to talk that language, learning from that same base. Now you go to where the magazine started losing traction and it started falling off, and you look at where really social media wasn't really anything at that point. Companies like us are still trying to find a way to put our message out through traditional media that may exist, because that's what we knew what to do. And so in our day, back then, when there was a lot of print media, we were really more focused on talking to and training the dealer, because the dealer was selling the product to the guy walking in the store. Now you fast forward, and I'm not saying that didn't exist in those days. You had the Crutchfield and some other online, and by online, I mean came in your mailbox. You got a catalog, a book, you open it up, you could buy. But really, people bought their products from a brick and mortar store and were looking for that. Now you fast forward through that transitional change, you've got where we're searching for how do we talk to the dealer, because now there's no communication medium for him other than sending a John Myers out to buy a pizza and go around and talk to the dealers who might be there. So what we learned rather quickly by looking at what people were doing, and I don't mean manufacturers, I mean people like a Dean, a Fernando, or other examples that we could throw out there, and you look at what they were doing. Yeah, they're talking to the consumer base, but let's be honest, there's a lot of guys who do work as a professional that watch these same shows because they glean information, and it's something that talks to them from their enthusiast heart, because this is something they enjoy. So now the days where everyone was getting their information from a catalog, the manufacturers had to figure out that's not where it's at anymore. We've got to figure out where to go. And I want to say we've figured out, and we're continuing to figure out, that social media, Facebook, YouTube, working with people like a Dean and a Fernando, it's how we can get our message out about our product. It's how we can show people that, cars are evolving and getting more difficult. So what are we doing as a manufacturer to make it easier for the consumer or the DIY or the guy who works in the shop to install a product in this car? For example, referencing, say, the Key 200.4, the Key 501, or the Key Lock.
Say the Kiss Lock. I was waiting for that.
If you look at any of those products, we've got to figure out how to talk to people. And I think for us, what it comes down to is we need to shift more of our message to the social media platforms. We're still going to do trainings in the field. That's still going to be a reality. But the other thing that we've kind of learned during the last 6 weeks is we can put together some pretty good webinars and do them on a computer. And that training, we used to have to go to a store and bring the guys in, or go to a Holiday Inn or Ramada Inn and bring in people from a 3-state area. We don't necessarily need to do that anymore, because you can be almost 100% as effective by doing it in a video training, especially if you can couple that with some more stuff outside the scope of the company. Because dealers still want to talk to us kicker, and they want us to tell them about why this widget is designed the way it is and why you should buy it and why you should use it. But I hate to say it because I'm not trying to diminish what we do, but there's nothing like third-party validation that you get from someone like a Dean and a Fernando, or a Big D, or a Hi-Fi Vega, someone that takes that product and uses it and doesn't pull any punches. They say, yeah, it's great at this, it's great at that. Here's where they think they dropped the ball. because the other thing is, as a manufacturer, that's great feedback for us.
True.
Well put, Kip.
Well,
so you're saying that you missed the magazines? I'm just kidding.
Well, no, and that's so. From a dealer point of view, one of the things we always yell about is that manufacturers in car audio, they spend more time advertising to their inside the industry, and it's like, okay, we're already buying your stuff. Why are you wasting your money? Why are you wasting your money advertising to me when I've already got your stuff? Find some way to go out there. I mean, and that's what you guys do when you do your motorcycle things and the whole, you're taking your stuff, and you're one of the only companies that do that. I mean, now, like Alpine and JL are doing the Jeep Bash things. And I don't know what JL is doing. They're doing the boat shows and stuff like that. Cause
right.
If you don't have JL in a boat, oh my God, it's like, oh, relax, bro. There are other things. Oh yeah. But, and that's great because it's like some of the manufacturers are like, all right, we don't want to spend that money advertising to ourselves. We want to take it and put it where there's a group of people that we want to be with. There's a guy, Larry Penn from MSC Calgary, Mobile Solutions Calgary.
I have to admit that no, I can't say it's striking a bell.
He owns the rep firm that does Helix.
Okay.
And he used to work with Audison. And so they flew us out to California and we did a big training there. And he got to speak. And one of the things he spoke about was being a dealer. As a dealer, if you want to attract a certain customer, well, then you have to figure out what that customer wants. He wanted to build Ferraris and Porsches and stuff like that. So he went out and bought a used Porsche, put a big stereo in it, and started hanging out at the Porsche meets. Next thing you know, he's the Porsche guy. So then that brought him in Ferraris because the Porsche guys all know the Ferrari guys. And then the Ferrari guys all know the Lamborghini guys. And then he gets the call from the Lamborghini dealership that needs a favor. He does the favor. And next thing you know, he's the big guy in Canada doing all these exotic cars because he bought a Porsche.
There you
go. A friend of mine, Aaron, Aaron used to work at Amp Global.
Yes.
Okay, so he doesn't work there anymore, and he wanted to start his own business. So he comes to me, and he's like, I'm going to do car audio again. And I was like, why in the world would you want to do car audio? Like, dude, in our area, there's so many car audio shops. You're going to be another needle in a stack of needles. I said, you know what we need? We need a motorcycle guy because all we have are these shops that do crappy-ass work on motorcycles. We need a dedicated motorcycle guy. And he was like, oh, now you tell me. So he's changed his whole business before he opened, and now it's Havoc Motorcycles, and he does motorcycles. And so all his advertising is for motorcycles. He uses social media to do motorcycles. So not only is social media great for, us up here doing like the stuff we do, but as a business, it's great because we can get our message out and use it to bring people in because we all know people are like motorcycle audio, it's like, who does this?
As far as it goes for like a consumer and enthusiast, it's unprecedented. The amount of content, and not only just the amount of content, but how deep you can get. Like, I don't just like car audio. I want old car audio. Okay, I found that. Well, I don't like just car audio. I like subwoofers. I want to see F-150 installs. I found D. So, as far as that goes, it's really like, the channels that never stop, right? Because I remember back in the 90s when Tech TV first came on cable, I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing. I can now watch technology stuff, which is things that I enjoyed. But they had shows and I couldn't really pick what I wanted to see because it's whatever came on. But now we just have an unlimited amount of content. And I think the big benefit for the manufacturers of this is that when they see a Dean and Fernando, they see a Hi-Fi Vega, they see a Willison Audio and some of these other channels, we have like the most honed in audience as far as enthusiasts for car audio industry. I mean, I'm trying to spread mine out a little bit more to do other things, but if I get 20,000 views on a video, that's 20,000 people that really wanted to watch that and they're car audio enthusiasts. So when you had magazines, they might have had 200,000 whatever subscriptions going out, but you didn't have that direct connection. And also the enthusiast level, I think now is just so much higher. And also, like, when Dean gets excited about stuff, I get excited about stuff. Rob, we're still working on his excitement level. But when you get excited about stuff, other people that are watching get excited too. And so I think that's just helping raise the bar and, just helping the industry. So I'll get off my soapbox.
The real quick, now that excitement level that you're talking about is scary for the Kips of the world, because now it's like Jared with Subway. They're going to entrust their kicker. Steve Irby is going to entrust this baby of his and be like, here, hold my baby and treat it like I would treat it. So that's a scary thought. Like, we learned that on real quick because, when we had like 30,000 subscribers, we thought we were like, we're the bomb, bro. And I had a conversation with your friend of mine, Chris Bennett. And, it was like, hey, listen, this is, and it was like, and so, we made slow changes to turn our channel in a different direction, because we knew that they were looking at it, but there was things that needed to be tweaked in order for them to be on board with what we were cooking.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, but we have those conversations all the time, because if it's someone who buys a product on their own and does it, we have no control over it. They can say and do whatever they want. But if it's someone we're going to work with as a partner, it's definitely another level of filtering that we go through to make sure that the impression of not just the product they're reviewing, but their impression of our brand is based on their interaction with them. And so it is very valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a scary thing, because I know, I've had conversations with plenty of manufacturers, and it's like, sometimes they just kind of look at you and they're like, no, we've seen your stuff. And you're like, what does that mean? And you're like, okay, so you don't like cool stuff? I don't understand. But and then it's like, it's fine. It's okay. It's like, that's fine. If you don't want to get involved with us, that's cool. We'll move on to the next one. It's like when we look at our backlog of videos that we have to create, we're just like, no, that's cool. We just, we had someone ask about your product, and if they're asking us, that means they're asking everybody. So, we just, if we get a product that people talk about enough, like we were talking about the Tweak 88, people asked about it enough. I was like, I don't want to make that phone call to them because it's a hassle. It's like, oh my God, it's not, and it's like, what are you going to do? There's one manufacturer that we've tried to work with over and over again. And it's like every time, and they'll call and complain. And it's just like, I just want to stab myself in the side of the head. And it got to a boiling point the other day where I just looked at Fernando and I was like, we're done. We're not doing anything for these people ever again that involves us working directly with them. We'll talk about their stuff, but not in the sense that we're going to work directly with them, because it's just not worth it. It's a hassle. And I'm like, God, we and it's like, I got to
speak to that.
Something that Dean brought up, he was talking about, and it ties into what you were talking about, Derek, as far as that transition time, when magazines fall off, and how does a company like us look at trying to take the message from just talking to the consumer and hoping the dealer will seal the deal when they walk in, to now we need to talk to the consumer and have him walk into the dealer looking for our product.
Yes.
And maybe you can find a video, or not a video, but a picture of it and show it on a share screen. But that's when we launched Big Air Bash, and that was back in I don't want to lie, that 02, 03, it's back there in the Wayback Machine. We did it for 9 years. And Big Air Bash was basically, we did an event and we hosted it at SEMA, and we did it on Wednesday night at SEMA, because as anyone who has been to a trade show knows, in the middle of the show, you're ready to go home. And so it was a great time to break away from the show at night, come hang out with your friends, get into a more of a relaxed atmosphere. You can grab your favorite cold beverage and just have some fun. And from Big Air Bash 1 to Big Air Bash 9, every year we were having to figure out a way to, how do we raise the bar on ourselves to get these people to come to Big Air Bash? And there were lots of great experiences that show, for both the consumers who saw that event, for people who were in the industry who came and participated in that event. And I will tell you, there were some great deals that came out of relationships built out of Big Air Bash. Now, initially when we did Big Air Bash, the funny thing about it, and Dean hit the nail right on the head, is people in car audio who are doing business with Kicker came to us and go, what are you guys doing? What does motorcycles have to do with car audio? You guys, have you lost your mind? And what we had to let them know was, we're trying to shift our focus into more of a consumer-driven marketing engine, and we're trying to talk to the consumers who are in a lifestyle that they want to put audio in a boat. They want to put audio in their car. They want to put audio. And, back then, UTV, ATV wasn't really that big of a thing, and really no one was doing audio on bikes like they are today. So they didn't understand, well, why are you focusing on bikes? You can't put audio on bikes, which you wouldn't make that statement today. But what we were doing is we were trying to talk to the audience who had the disposable income and the desire to upgrade audio and things that they own. And that's why we started Big Air Bash, and that's why we went down that path with doing lots of sponsorship and interaction with anything that had to do with action sports and things like that. And it took probably every bit of 7 years of Big Air Bash before dealers and people finally caught on and go, oh, okay, I get it. There's people coming into my store and they're asking about your brand, and they say, well, it's because I saw Big Air Bash on because we did have the TV coverage of that. They actually turned it into a show, and it was run on Fox Sports Net and a couple other shows on there. So that was kind of a transition period for us in between magazines and social media. Big Air Bash was how we kind of filled that gap, and we learned as a company it's more valuable for us to talk to the consumer, not ignore the dealer, but we've got to focus our energy on the consumer.
I want to go back to one thing Dean said about working with companies from the YouTube side of that. You're always apprehensive, because the one thing you never want to happen is them to have some kind of input on your content. So you're always kind of like, what does this entail? If I do this video, what do you expect out of me? And typically, that's why me and Derek buy almost everything we review. So if we don't, we make sure to put it out there that it was sent to us or whatever the case may be.
The stopgap we put in is, if it sucks, it doesn't get reviewed, because it's not my place to. I'll tell the company, like, hey, this is what we ran into, and I really like, we do have a DSP that a manufacturer sent us to review, and there was a software problem with it, and I felt terrible, because it was like, it's a really nice piece, but the software doesn't work right. And I'm like, I can't review this product because I can't sit here and say, hey, this is a great piece, buy it, use it. And then they'll go, well, the software doesn't work. So we can't even do a complete demo on it. So it sits on the shelf until one day they figure out how to fix the software, because it's not my place to say something sucks unless it's a Dayton DSP.
And you truly haven't gotten your hands on an audio bank amplifier yet.
In there again, hey, that's all you, bro.
Man, hey, see, the way I look at it is, I look on eBay and Amazon, and I see, and a lot of times on eBay, it'll tell you, that they've sold like 200 of these things.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, I've got to stop this madness. We've got to get people to understand what they're buying, right? Because they see 8,000 watts for $59, right? And there's, oh man, dude, I got the best, cheapest 8,000 watt amp known in the world. So that's the way I look at it. Is it's more of an educational thing to show people, well, no, that's not really what you're getting. This is what you're getting. You're having to deal with reliability and other things. So I don't mind doing that stuff. I think it's fun because,
well, it's cool.
It's just interesting, I think, because a lot of people say, well, really? Is that amp really $12.99 free shipping that they show on eBay? No.
Yeah, but you created a genre that didn't exist before. So, it's like you've made this whole testing cheap crap amplifiers a whole thing.
Right.
So now it's like when people it's like before they go to buy cheap crap, they go, let's go see if Derek did a review of this POS.
Right.
I'm going to tie into that because it's hilarious to me. Derek found the only amplifier that we as a manufacturer have ever put out that it didn't meet rated power. He I don't know if he knew or he handpicked. I don't know how it happened.
I didn't know. And honestly, Kip, before you get into your story, that amp was normally like $150 or $199. I found it on, it was on clearance or whatever for like $49 or $59. One of the sites was just closing it out.
Sure.
I bought the amp. I did the Dean. It sat in the corner. I said, why am I going to make a video about a 150 watt amp that does half an ohm? It makes no sense. I actually made the video. The video is like one of my top 3, has over 1 million views, and I'm gonna let Kip finish the story.
Oh, it's just hilarious. And, because obviously one of the things that we get questioned on as manufacturer continuously in social or in phone calls to tech, whatever, is does product X actually make X number of watts? And when it comes to amplifiers, we really do hang our hat on. If we say it's 800 watts RMS, the amplifier is 800 watts RMS. If we say it's 60, whatever it is, we spend a lot of time and energy and effort. And I know you've seen it, Derek, and I know Dean spent a lot of time seeing it. It's not a game to us. I mean, we want our amplifiers to make what they say on there. Now, unfortunately, on the lower priced products, and I don't want to say low end, I want to say lower priced, is we have to play that peak game as much as our conscience will let us, because unfortunately, uneducated buyers sometimes will just not listen. And so if you look at like a CXA 1800.1, that amplifier makes a legit 1800 watts. It actually makes 1800 and some change, but it's got 3600 watts peak on the box. And that's so that we can compete on some level with the uneducated consumer who's out there shopping, and all they look at is peak watts and how much this costs. And that's how I determine value, which is the worst thing you could do to buy a value product. But hey, I can't train everybody. I can only help one person at a time. But I just love that Derek found the one product that actually doesn't meet the specification. And what's interesting about it is when that video first came to light, it was brought to my attention. I actually saw the video the first time it aired, and it was brought to my attention by some people at work, some coworkers. And I said, yep, I've already asking questions, so I can answer this in some kind of an intelligent manner. And our buddy Joe, buddy Joe, I got into a conversation with Joe, and he and I were going back and forth. And finally, he just laid it all out for me. He said, well, okay, well, here's the deal that, at high voltage and at this, and if you test it at the circuit board and you don't have the losses through the Molex connector, and you go through this whole list of reasons, it makes 200 watts. And I said, let's not do that anymore. If it doesn't make 200 watts for a consumer or someone in a normal testing mode, we shouldn't put that on the box. And then, of course, that was a conversation. Well, marketing wanted to say 200 watts, and that's where I go, marketing didn't say we wanted to say 200 watts. You told us it made 200 watts.
I think the version of that story I heard was before he was in the position he's in, and the guy that designed that amplifier, I don't think he's there anymore. It was this whole,
we had no idea that video. And I don't know. I think it's just because I hooked it up to like 8 different subwoofers, and that was like the background of my thumbnail. I think that's why that video got so much interest. But actually, it was really impressive. I had a 15-inch JL, a 12-inch JL, 10-inch something else. I had they're stacked behind me, all hooked up to this 1 amp, because it did half an ohm, right? It's designed for half an ohm loads. And so that might have had something to do with it, but it was impressive, man. It powered a whole wall of subwoofers. So,
and I can tell you that amp, it does work. It is a good amplifier. We've used it for, before the Key 501 existed, and we needed a small sub amp. That was the go-to amplifier, because you could put that in a car, power back up the factory base system, whatever the ohm load was. And, it's this big, and you can tuck it out of the way. And it kind of partnered up with the Key, the 4-channel Key pretty well. So it wasn't a terrible amp. It was just one of those situations. But, back to the CX amplifiers, like when I was there, one of the things that Joe wanted me to do was break an amplifier. He challenged me because he knows how I am with stuff. I break things. I'm the first guy to tell you, if you send me something, I'm probably going to break it, because I'm going to do everything I can that I know a consumer is going to do with it. I want to be mean, and I want to twist it and smack it. And, the whole Top Gun, I'm going to twist you. I'm going to break you. And so I was like, challenge accepted, bro. Let's go. So we got the amp dyno, and we found out the limitations of the amp dyno. Like, you can't go below 9 volts on an amp dyno, even though the CXA amplifiers will go to 8.5 volts, because they'll do stop-start. The light will come on, but the amplifier will still work. But we found out we couldn't get it to go that low because the amp dyno wouldn't let us. But I think that we were still getting like 400 watts at 9 volts out of the amplifier. And it was playing, and it didn't. I tried to break that thing so hard. I was at the point where I was getting ready to just smash it on the floor.
And that's one of the things that Rob and I, when we got the tour at Kicker, and I'm sure Dean got the same one, where we got some of the demos of the amps and got to see some of that. Where you saw how far they could drop in voltage, still keep the power up. Saw the differences between the different lines. You know, some of them have regulated power supplies, some of them didn't. So things like that, you know, us getting to see it and then us getting to show the consumer, that's very important, I think, to get all that information out.
I mean, that was,
and to tie into that, although I do laugh about it and I love it from that aspect, is that we genuinely want every amplifier we put out to do what we say it's going to do. And that 200.1 happens to be the one fluke amplifier that, due to testing and measurement standards, didn't make it. But the good thing about that is, even if this was in hindsight and we were like, okay, Derek would say, okay, call Kicker and say, hey, Kip, I tested the amp, it doesn't do this and that, I would still wanting to put the review up, because that information that comes in is valuable, in my opinion, because for a company that cares, it helps you, one, stay honest, or two, find legitimate holes where something fell through the cracks and didn't meet a standard that we put out to the public. And I think holding a manufacturer accountable, which is one of the things Derek does with all his testing, I'm all for it, because the more he holds a manufacturer accountable, the better the manufacturers who are accountable look.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a small anecdote about Derek. People probably don't know this, but if Derek sent an amp that's absolute junk, he will then buy that same amp with his own money and not review the amp that was sent to him, and he will review the amp he bought with his own money, so he can say how crappy that amp is with no regrets whatsoever.
That happened with the one that blew up recently that I showed. And Kip, we talked about that before. You guys have had several amplifiers blow up on your test bench. And this one is like, you know, the one did it, I was like, yeah, let me get like 4 camera angles set up and try the other one and see if it's going to do the same thing. And sure enough, it was a light show. And I'm like, you know, people, this is serious business. Putting this in the trunk of your car and have something like this happen. I mean, you can burn your car down and somebody can get hurt really bad. So you have to, you know, that's the kind of things that, you know, granted, should have gone to the manufacturer and said, hey, you know, you guys have a problem here. But for me, it's like, it's been shown before that this happens. And I've actually talked to some of the manufacturers before that had stuff like this, and it's like, they just don't care. I'm like, well, you got to, like Kip said, you've got to take the feedback and make changes. You can't just keep doing this.
You know, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, we just had an amp come in for review, and we went a little crazy on it, and we blew it up the day it came in. Like, we smoked the out of this thing, and I was like, crap. And boxed it back up. I said, hey, man, I texted him. I said, hey, man, I blew this thing up the first day. And he was like, boxed it back up, sent it back to him. I got a letter from the owner of the company going, you found a critical error in our design, and we're now, because it was a sample. So he's like, we're fixing that piece. It was wrong. So they sent it back to me with the new piece in it, and going forward, that's the change they're going to make, because the resistor was wrong. And because I blew it up, they were able to figure out, oh crap, this was the wrong resistor. And they sent me a letter and thanked me. They're like, thank you for finding this error in our design, and we can fix it now.
Well, people like, Kicker obviously have got all these different stages, and that's one of the things. If you do the tour, you get to see the reason their products cost a little more is because they go through this whole process, right? R&D, engineer, all this stuff, right? It comes back.
Wait.
So here's my statement to that, Dean. Yeah. What you just said. Yeah. If you're a small company doing your amplifiers or whatever, I do some beta testing for people. Send it to me beforehand, and I'll test it, and we won't make a video, but then at least you can know. If you can't afford to get the test equipment, whatever, we can try it out. So that will be from, somebody who does videos and makes content. That will be my recommendation. You don't come out and think, oh gosh, we're going to make $1 million being a new car audio company and have these amps with the slapped on ratings that don't make sense, and our amps catch on fire, because you're really just going to hurt yourself, right? You got to understand what you're getting into.
You bring that up, and yes, we do test a lot of amplifiers from other vendors at Kicker. I mean, we bring them in, we put them underneath the same testing methodology that we do with our products.
You didn't show them the area where you guys keep all that stuff?
Yeah,
Dude, let me tell you what.
and here's the thing, and this is what's interesting, and I know, Derek, I know the amplifier you're talking about. I'm not going to mention it because it doesn't matter, and I know the amplifier that Dean's talking about, but I won't mention it because it doesn't matter. But this is what I'll say is, from a manufacturer's perspective, we're always looking to try to come out with the best built, correct, advertise real amplifier or speaker or whatever we can every day. It's part of who we are, and that's a top-down philosophy in our company. So our testing, and like Dean said, he was challenged to break an amplifier. We have a lot of standards our amplifiers have to go through and live through, and one of them is a full 60-second resistive load test, not a speaker, resistive load, 60 seconds, go, and that amplifier has to survive. It cannot break.
Wasn't that going to be the new CEA 2006 C rating? Is the full 60-second test?
It might be. I haven't read that, Dean, so I don't want to lie to you. I'm not up to speed on that. But the thing for us is we design to that. There are a lot, and I'm not going to get into brands because it doesn't matter, but there are a lot of amplifiers out there that are selling big power on the cheap. And we get those amplifiers in and we run them through the same battery test that we design our amplifiers for. We go signal noise ratio, THD, power, resistive load test. We do everything. And I'm honest when I say we've broke every single one of them. And the challenge for us as a company is we sit back and go, okay, the consumers are obviously buying these products because they're in demand. But yet we look at it and go, to our standards, all they do is break. So it's a challenge for us. We go, so do we lower our standards and make a less expensive? Because if we start taking out protection circuitry and the number of output devices and shrink the power supply down so it just handles dynamic peaks and not continuous loads into resistive, or continuous power into resistive load, you can take a lot of cost out of an amplifier. But yet you can make these magical dyno numbers that everyone lives and dies by now. And we've decided that's not where we want to be, but obviously consumers buy a lot of these amps and a lot of them break because they're really not designed to handle the torture that a consumer puts them through, at least not in our opinion.
Kip, let me sell you an idea here. What about the...
Let me get my wallet. I'm ready.
The Wicker BX 3200. Then you could take all the protection circuits out and just sell them over here.
Did he just say the Wicker?
He said Wicker.
Yeah, the BX series.
We actually made a BX series overseas.
It was sold in the Walmarts in China.
Yeah.
God. So the fun part, back to what you were saying, Kip, about when you guys blow up their amplifiers, a lot of those amplifiers you guys blow up in testing, the engineers for fun will actually rebuild and blow them up again and rebuild them until they find what parts should actually be in there. And they'll use that knowledge to better make your products.
That is 100% correct. And yes, we do that. And sometimes we have to get into, we get into meetings on that. Sometimes the marketing and salespeople have to tell the engineers to stop. We're not trying to make their product better. We're trying to make our product better. But it is a learning ground to look at those designs. And it's kind of interesting because Fernando, he's one of our head engineers on that. I mean, he'll sit down and he can have a full in-depth conversation. He'll tell you, okay, this amplifier, and not a bad layout. It's not too bad, but they dropped the ball here. And if they would do this and they do this, blah, 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 blah. And we have to look at Fernando and go, great, but do that for us. Don't pick up the phone and call.
So my funny story with Fernando. So when I was there last time, I go, hey, Fernando, you want to go running? Because we ran around the lake. So he goes, yeah. I said, all right. So we stayed at I stayed at the hotel. So I ran to Kicker from the hotel, met him at the lake in front of Kicker, and we ran around the lake. So I'm looking, he's kind of a built guy. Right. And so I was like, all right, let's go. And so we're running and we're talking about key lock. And he would get a little bit in front of me. And so I'd be like, all right, I'd pace up next to him. And apparently what was actually happening is he was chasing me. I thought I was chasing him. We got done with the run and he's like, oh my God, you're fast. And I was like, what do you mean? I was pacing you. And he goes, no, man. And so we sat there and we talked for like another 45 minutes, and I looked at my watch and I go, oh shit, I got to meet Lori back at the hotel, mile and a half away. So I had to run as fast as humanly possible back to the hotel, and I got there right when she did, and I was like, hey, I got to go get a shower. She's like, what did you do? I was like, nothing. But yeah, that was funny.
That is funny, but it's nice that you can have that kind of one-on-one quality time with any manufacturer, because it gives you insight into who they are as a brand, and I think it gives you valuable information. And if we're listening, when it's all said and done, and you guys are doing, whether it's amplifier testing or in-car installation or application, if the manufacturer is listening to what you guys are doing on social and getting your feedback, and more importantly, not that I'm trying to diminish you guys as the host, but more importantly, if we get the feedback from the people watching, we look at the comment stream and we see what's going on there, it is a valuable tool. And I will say, Kicker is a brand. Again, said this from the beginning. I won't say we know it all, but I think we're on the right path, and we're certainly putting our energies where we feel getting the best return, and that is direct to the consumer and direct to the channels the consumer is getting his information from, which is, i.e., Dean and Fernando at 5-Star, or Hi-Fi Vega, or something where you got Williston Audio Labs who's doing testing. That's where our consumer who's into car audio today is, and that's where we need to communicate, is on those channels.
The funny thing about those cheap amps that you're having your engineers look at, you guys might have had the first engineer in America look at those cheap amps, because I know
I know
they don't have engineers. Half of them don't have engineers.
It's funny you
True
just
that,
Rob, because like when we came and did our documentary, and I pitched the idea to Lori to do the documentary, that was like, I said, listen, I want to go and interview the guys that never get seen. I want to talk to the speaker designers. I want to talk to the engineers. I want to go and actually talk to people that have hands-on in developing the product. And, she was like, well, let me see. And then she comes back to me. She's like, you got it all. And I was like, oh, cool. Because to me, that was the thing. It was like, I want to be able to bring those guys, the quiet engineers and we had a great conversation about Star Trek and Star Wars and which one was better. And if you can't figure out which side I was on, I don't know what to tell you. But, it was a great experience in bringing those guys into the fold and showing the world that, like, there's people that are here that do this work. And it's not just like, I'll take that one on that shelf, that one on that shelf, and that one over there. So, yeah, that's
100% true.
Yeah. And then that led us to get a call from Audio Control, and Chris brought us out to do the same thing there and show, on a much smaller scale, what they do, which was really cool. And then this virus hit, and that kind of killed that whole thing.
Well, I can tell you, someone who's been associated with the industry since I was officially 16. I actually started dabbling playing in car audio when I was probably about 12, but I've been in it for a very long time. And so I'm a hobbyist. I'm an enthusiast. I'm probably today more of a home audio videophile than car. I still am into car, obviously, but I appreciate audio and video in home. But I can tell you, even at the level I'm at, where, working at a manufacturer and doing what we're doing, I enjoy and appreciate the content that all of you put out. I find it entertaining. I find it useful. I find it valuable. And then if I put on my work hat, I find it as a great place to comb through and find out what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong. And it's, in my opinion, only beneficial if we can have reciprocative relationships with you guys, so that we can learn from you and we can work with you to help you do your jobs.
Yeah, and just going back to Dean's video of the Kicker tour, which it's like an hour and something, hour and 12 minutes and 59 seconds.
It's a movie.
It is. It's still I think it's my favorite video that you've ever done, Dean. It's hard to describe, because just being there, and Rob and I got unprecedented access. We got a really, way cool tour of the facility and got to see pretty much everything that you went over. But I think for people who are in the market, consumer, you need to watch this, because just to see
Oh yeah.
To get a little bit of the feel, of the type of people that are there, and like the level of enthusiasm. I think Rob can attest to it. But when we left there, it was kind of like, we had just left the Mecca, because you get there and everybody is so excited about what they do. And I'm like, I wish I had this every day.
I know, dude. Trust me. I looked at them all and I said, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I was like the Grinch. I hate you. I was like, all you people are so freaking happy. What is wrong with you? You're supposed to be miserable like the rest of us. God. And they just look at me and laugh. And they're like, that's Dean. He's silly. And I'd be like, no, I don't get it. You guys are all happy.
Derek kept going to me. He's like, get pictures, get videos. Like, man, Dean already done this. I can just enjoy this now.
Yes, right?
Yeah, Dean's got this covered. I can just enjoy the experience.
Trust me. And yeah.
Do you know why it's like that, Dean? Honestly,
it's Steve.
It's because of Steve. And the one thing that I'll say is, no matter what level you're at in that company, I mean, everybody has a boss, and we all have a task, we all have a job. But at the end of the day, you will never get reprimanded. There will never be repercussions if you chose to do the right thing. It may have cost time and it may have cost money, but as long as you can show that you made the right decision, there's never any blowback for that. And knowing that there's that kind of comfort level there, that you're in a position that as long as you make the right call ethically, morally, you don't have to worry about if it's the right call financially. It's what's right to do now for this situation, for this consumer, for this product. And having that kind of support and backing from the top down is what makes that an environment the way it is.
And I think it goes without saying that it works. So any of you other manufacturers out there that want to know how this stuff works, it works.
To bring it full circle back to talking about what it did for social media, when I went there the first time and I talked to Lori and I was like, hey, let's do the live show with somebody. And like the day before I was coming out, she goes, oh, you're going to do an interview of Steve. And I have it on speakerphone, and Fernando goes, he's going to do what? And she goes, yeah, he's going to interview Steve. And he's like smacking my arm going, dude, you're going to interview Steve Irby. And I'm like, the owner? He's like, yeah. And I was like, oh shit. Because I got to go home now and do all my research to like it's like we all know who he is, but we don't know anything about him because he's kept a very like private life. And it was like, being able to, when I'm interviewing him, I am nervous. It's like the first time I've been nervous talking to somebody. It was like, now we're cool. Now it's like, after the thing, we went and we had dinner, we sat down, he's got the, it's like, hey, Steve, hey, Dean, what's going on? But it was like, that hour of just, dude, I'm sweating, I'm nervous, but it was like bringing that because I searched everywhere for content about him and there was none to be found. I actually found it. He did an interview because he's a very religious guy. He did an interview for a religious channel. And I found all my information about him on that channel. And so I was like, he tells a great story. So it was like, all I have to do is just kind of like throw little things at him. And then he just talks and it's like, throw the next little thing. And it was like, but I learned everything I could, but I could find nothing about him in 12 volts. So it was like, I looked at it as my job to bring this 12 volt icon into 12 volts so that if someone searches who is Steve Irby, this video will pop up and you can hear his story instead of going like, 6 pages back on Google search for Steve Irby and finding this one little video he did, 20 years ago on some obscure, and it was like, holy crap. But it was great. And that's what social media does.
Yeah. Steve's a very humble guy. He is he's a guy that wants to win though. Don't let him be humble.
Yeah,
I mean, he wants to play the game to win, but he's very humble about it. And he doesn't necessarily want to be the center of attention. He wants the company and what we do as a company to be the center of attention. He's just the ringleader. So you did a really nice job with the interview on him, and I'm proud to see that they got a little more time in the light because he doesn't seek it, but he's good in it.
No, and, he is, dude. Trust me. And when he does his little speech about when you guys bring the people in, and he gets his little 10-minute segment where and it's like, you're just like this. Shut up. Shh. What's wrong with you people? Let the man speak. This is good. This is like a really good 10-minute documentary, But you're right. It's not about him. It's about the company. It's just it sometimes it blurs that line between where the company and where he, where it all kind of goes, because he almost talks about it and and he's almost like reminiscing in the third person, and you're like, it's you, dude. it's all you, but it's cool.
It's funny you say that. There, I'm blessed that, with some restrictions, I can just basically walk down and talk to Steve whenever it comes up, and he'll bring up things. We'll talk about departments, this, that, the other, and I always tell him, I said, Steve, it's your checkbook. I'm just the one signing it. So he's, because he'll say, well, we're doing this, we're doing that, and he'll, can we do this? And I'll look at him and go, Steve, that's yours. We can do whatever you want. Well, can we take the company van? It's yours, Steve. We can do whatever you want.
We got lucky enough to have lunch with Steve, which was total shock to us when we got there and done the whole tour. But we were sitting there, me, Derek, our good buddy JDR, and we're sitting there looking at each other like, okay, who's going to ask the questions to Steve at first? And then I just couldn't. That kind of gave me looks like, okay, I'm the one that says dumb stuff all the time. I might as well just go ahead and ask the question in case it's dumb. I don't care to look dumb, so let's just do it.
No, that's me too. It's like, if I can put my foot in my mouth, it works for me. I'm cool with it. After we did the interview, we went over to Eskimo Joe's, and Lori and I are sitting there with John and Steve, and I'm just sitting there going, wow, like I'm at this table. This is really cool. And John goes, should I know who you are? And I go, no, I'm just a dude. And Lori's like, no, he's not. He's 5-star. And I'm like, I'm just a guy. She goes, she's over there pimping me out. And I'm like, and Steve's like, he just interviewed me. And I'm like, it's okay, man. It's okay. I'm just like, And then I told him,
make videos on YouTube.
Tell him your fake news.
Yeah, exactly. And then I told him my story that I had of his when he did a training for me years ago on the Warhorse. And I was like, you did this training that changed my life. And because he was the guy that explained to me how to do summing. And back then, when you guys were using that other, what was the company you guys bought that Joe came from?
Oh, you asked me that too fast. That was, doggone it.
Anyways, that
Soundgate.
So you guys were using Soundgate with all their high level to low level adapters, and you guys were using the transformer base instead of the resistive base, and so you could use those to sum. And he had just done a Cadillac, and he was talking about how, and we had just done a Cadillac, and he was like, yeah, we put the 804 in it. And I was like, wait, how'd you put an 804 in it? There's like 12 channels of audio there. And so after the class I walked, I'm like, how did you put a 4-channel in there? There's like 8 channels of audio. He goes, we summed it. And I was like, okay, explain. And he's like, and in his typical way, it's like, oh, well, you buy this, you take this, you put this together, and you stack them on, and you take Y jacks. And I was like, okay, what's the number on the product? Let me just write down the model number of the product. I'll buy one and tear it apart and figure out what it is. But it was because of that I was able to figure out, oh, there's a difference between a transformer-based high-level to low-level adapter and a resistive-based transformer to high-level to low-level adapter, which consequently we both, Jeff Smith and I, all laughed at recently when we were looking at one going, we all need load resistors, and this is where we started with load resistors. We're like, we've had this before and we threw it away.
Full circle.
Now we need these.
Magazines are making a comeback too, so get ready.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
I'm just kidding.
They're never coming back.
It's a full circle. Give it 20 years.
Give it 20 years. Yeah.
So, to tie in, I want to share this real quick, and then I want to ask Dean, because I think I want to know, at least. I don't know if anyone else does, but, the way that Kicker kind of got started doing live social media is everyone, at least they do if they've seen me, it's Dave. And Dave used to be in marketing. He's moved on to greener fields, he thinks. He moved over to international sales, so he's not in marketing anymore. But Dave and I were at the Miami International Boat Show, and this goes back a couple years. And Dave and I were talking about things and going, and he said, well, why don't we just do a live video? He says, why don't we go outside? He says, you know all about the product. He says, I'm just a dumb guy. I don't know anything. But he says, I can interact with you and be the guy. He says, and we'll talk about the new marine products we've got. And I was like, sure, I don't care. So literally for us to start doing videos, it was a off the cuff thing that we did down in Miami at the boat show. And Dave and I are outside and start doing this live video. And Dave and I looked, and there's 1,200 people watching live. And of course, behind the scenes, Dave and I are poking each other going, there's 1,200 people. We don't get 1,200 people that interface with anything that we do. And then, so we did the video and then it's done. And we go back an hour later and there's 46,000 views. And at that time, we had never put anything up in anywhere, whether it be YouTube or Facebook or anything that had that kind of view count. So it was kind of an eye opener at that point where Dave and I are like, okay, when we're at live events, we're going to go live. It's not going to be any script. It's just going to be you and me talking about whatever, whether it's the event or whatever cool demo vehicle there is or what new product we're launching. And that's when we saw that there's a lot of success and just people expect a certain amount of quality in the video and quality in the audio. They want it, but they don't really want it scripted. They just want it to be you and the product, and let's talk about it. And it was a big eye opener for us. What was your point where, and not in the install bay, but what was your point where you said, okay, we need to start doing videos and let's do this and let's do it in this format? What kicked you off to start it?
I mean, so it was daylight savings time. The reality of it was we got tired of reprogramming people's radios. So twice a year you got now, and some companies will tell you, oh, twice a year you get the customer back in your store and you can try to upsell them. No, what happens is twice a year you get the old guy back in your store that doesn't know how to set his clock, and he comes in and goes, oh, it's that time of the year again, Sonny, come out and push the buttons for me. And it's like, I got shit to do. So I was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we just had a video that you could just say, give me your email address. I'll email you a link to this video and you can just figure out, from there you can watch and, someone will walk you through it. It takes 60 seconds and it's all good. So that was the idea that morning for the video. And then I came into work and I had, at the time I had a Canon GX9, basically a brick with a lens. That I was like, hey, I had this idea, but let's see if we can do this first. I'm going to take it further. I'm going to say something, Fernando, and then you repeat it in Spanish. He goes, okay. And so we tried to do like a 5-minute unboxing, and it was the most horrible thing. And that's when I learned that Spanish and English have no correlations whatsoever with one another, because apparently I missed that in Spanish class. They say things backwards to what we say, so they almost have like a Yoda conversation going on in their heads. So kudos to Fernando. He did it for years and figured it out and did it really well. But that first video was absolutely horrible. And at the very end of it, there was this Paul, the owner, goes, oh, you didn't mention it had an FM tuner. And I go, who gives a shit? Okay, and it was off camera. So I left it in there because it was just going up on Facebook and everyone thought it was funny and it was great. And that's why, like, the first videos we did these really cheesy, like I'd come out dressed like Flava Flav and be like, I had a big clock and I'd be like, oh, what's up, dog? And, we'd play Frisbee and we learned a lot of things from those, what to do and what not to do. Like when I had Dave Letterman, the owner's manual, people would lose their minds, man. Like, oh my God, I'm never taking anything to you guys. You guys treat things like crap. And like, I would take the cage off the radio and like drop it on the floor and like slow motion, ting, 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 ting. Oh man, we got so much hate for that. And I'd just be like, really, guys? I mean, these go in the trash can, or I would say, no one reads this. And so we learned that, okay, these aren't good ideas, and then, but we got so much hate for it. But there again, it always kept turning the ship in a different direction until finally it's where it's at now, that it's like, we know what they want and we focus greatly on that. But as far as live goes, our live show used to be a lot like this, where, we would just go on, if we got like 15, 20 people, it was like, cool. We'd have a topic. There was no questions. There was like maybe 1 or 2 questions. But we would just talk about car audio for an hour. And, that was like 270 shows ago. We've been doing the Facebook Live. So we've been doing it for we're on like 270 some odd shows we've had in Facebook Live. And now it just comes on and it's like, it's regular 6:30, and that was the thing. It's like, it's got to be the same time. 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, Monday nights, and people tune in, and it was really weird. Like, we found that out. That was scary. It was like people be like, "Where's the show? You guys are late." And we're like, "Oh, my bad." We're irresponsible. And And then like Fernando was harder to win over on all this, even though he had a lot of great ideas. He still was, he never wanted to do this. He never wanted to talk on a camera, never wanted to stand in front of a classroom. Like this year at Knowledge Fest, he was in 3 classes that he did in Spanish. You know, he did the audio control training in Spanish. He did one, I think, on social media, and then he did, I don't remember, but there was 3 classes that he actually was teaching on, and he would have never done that. But what sold him was, because there again, before the world stopped, we would have fans come in to say hi, and we have lanyards that we give and stickers and all that fun stuff. Well, this little kid, this little tiny kid, about his height, came in. He goes, walks up to him on the other side of the car. It was a family, and he looks at him. He goes, "I don't like your show." And Fernando just got so sad because I'm listening out of the corner of my ear, and the little kid goes, "I love your show." And you just see little Fernando's head pop up from behind the door, and he goes, "Well, come with me. You're going to get some stickers." And it was the funniest thing ever. But that moment there sold him on, this is real. This is a thing. I need to do it. I need to be professional about it, and let, you know, because he, up until then, it was just like not a thing. And I think when you have an opportunity to talk with people that watch your show, it's like when you see him at Knowledge Fest, man, he just has a swarm of people around him, and he's talking to everybody. And then they always say the same thing: "Where's Dean?" Because they all think I'm taller, and I'm not. I'm short. I'm like 5'8", normal height, and like you two giants up there, you know. So I'd be like this. It's like when we saw Mark from Cardio Fabricator, you know, he's like 6'4" or 6'2", and they're all like, "Dean's short." I'm like, "No, I'm 5'8", man. I'm normal height, dude. This guy's a giant, and Fernando's a midget. Okay, I'm caught in the middle. You know, I had a guy this weekend when we were at the car show with Jeff. He goes, "Dude," I had sunglasses and a baseball hat on, and he looks at me and he goes, "Take off your sunglasses." I took him. He goes, "You're Dean from 5 Star." And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I knew I recognized your voice. I thought you'd be taller." I'm like, "No."
There's a picture when they visited for their tour.
Yes.
And it's Steve Irby, myself. It's got, doggone, my brain just locked up.
JDR,
yeah, thank you for that. And these 2 guys. And I'm 5'11", so I'm not short by any stretch of imagination. Yeah. And I'm in that picture, I'm like, man, those guys are tall.
Oh, yeah, right?
Did you see the picture of us next to EXO?
Yeah. He's invisible. Who's the branch between the 2 of you guys?
I do have one request for your guys' live show. Like we started talking off, you get the people just ask the questions over and over and over in your chat.
Yeah.
I want Fernando to only answer those in Spanish.
Oh God. Well, okay. So it's funny you mentioned the Spanish thing, because one of the reasons why we don't do Spanish anymore is because we were getting threats. It was becoming very uncomfortable at that time for us to, you know, because they were I mean, to say they were being mean is one thing, but they were being more than mean. And it was just like, this really isn't worth it, because I don't want him to feel uncomfortable, and I don't want that environment around the show that we do. So that's why we kind of took the Spanish aspect out of it. It was just weird. But
tell them you got some big friends.
We do, dude.
Right.
You should meet Ricardo from Monster in Mexico City, Mexico. This guy is a killer fabricator, but he's like your height. He's like 6'4". He's a Latino Mexican guy that is like 6'4". Okay, and the funny thing is they'll all the Spanish guys walk together at Knowledge Fest, and they'll all be like, you know, talking with this guy. So I just kind of look around and look for the one tall guy in the room, and then I'll find them all, because they're all like this, and he's this. And I'll be, "Oh, there's Fernando. He's over there with Ricardo." You know, but it's fun. All right.
Yeah, sorry, I had somebody knocking on my door and they were getting ready to enter, so I was trying to make sure.
I heard that. I was like, did somebody just come?
I'm like, y'all are gonna be on YouTube here if you open the door. Well, guys, listen, we this has been awesome. We could keep going because we all have so much to talk about, but I think we've probably taken up enough of everybody's time here tonight. Again, Dean from 5 Star Car Stereo. We will leave a link in the video description to your channel so people can check you out. They can come see you if they want their F-150 hooked up.
Hey, baby.
And Kip from Kicker thank you as always for taking the time out to come hang out with us and talk about car stereo and magazines and all the fun stuff that we discussed tonight. I'm sure Rob and I will pull some clips out of this video, much like we did the last one, and have some short and sweet clips because there's a lot of good content that may get lost in the hour and a half worth. Rob, I think we do have a list of people who did the super chats tonight. I know I've got some written down. I can go over those, and if you have additional ones that I miss.
All right.
Sean K., El Fuego, Mark Crawley, John Hill, Scott, a.k.a. Civic. Do you have any other ones?
Brad Newsome, Gene Nava, and the Third Era.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate your support as always. And thanks again to Dean and Kip for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
And we're going to sign out for this week. Make sure you check us out, 12volttalk.com. It'll forward you to our YouTube channel. You can check us out also on the podcast network. And Dean, we're going to talk about yours real quick afterwards because we've had some people say that your stuff is not showing up on Apple Podcasts. We've had people ask about that, so we'll have to see what's going on. I don't think your show is updating there or something. We'll talk about that.
Probably not.
Okay, he says probably not. All right, guys. Thanks again. We will see you next time here on 12 Volt Talk. Have a good one. We're out of here. All right, so I didn't end the...
Oh, you mean I can't go naked?
I didn't end the stream.
Oh, you can. This will be our
Guys,
most
I
highly
mean,
viewed video.
we really did go long, and we'll scroll through a little bit real quick to see if there's any...
I brought my bike. It's right there.
Oh, yeah.
He's got his headphone holder over there.
Yeah, that's what I use my bike for.
Derek's got about 20 bikes.
I know, but they're all BMX cool things, man. These have those pedals that like you die on.
Yeah.
You know, with the special shoes. I got special shoes for my bike.
Hey, Tom, thanks for that comment. I'm honored that you say that. We really try every day to put out a quality product. It means something when people recognize that. I appreciate it, man.
And they do try every day. Let me tell you what, even through this COVID nonsense, it's like I've been talking with a lot of the guys there, and it's like you guys, like Steve did amazing things for you guys. Like you guys all had jobs. None of the projects got canceled. So it's like you guys were, the machine was still going. Everyone was getting paychecks. That's awesome. I mean, that's how much Steve cares. And that's pretty crazy because I know a lot of companies that their employees were taking like 50% pay cuts, getting furloughed. And it was just real scary for a lot of guys. And you guys, you know, Steve cares, man. And that's an amazing thing.
You know, since you bring that up, and I'll be quick about this, and it's been 6 weeks now, I think. If you know, it's funny, I've lost track of time, to be honest, but we have a VP team. It's a vice presidential team, and it's Steve and the people at VP level, and they're really the guys that make the big decisions that drive our company. And when this whole pandemic thing came down and everything they were predicting from the start, they had a meeting and came out of it, and the result of that was they said, if you can work from home, if you can do your job and work from home, we've asked IT to work with you. Grab your laptop, grab your desktop, grab your monitors, grab whatever you need for your desk. IT will help you, and we want to send all of you who can work from home, because we're not going to shut the company down unless the state or federal government says we have to. And at that point, Oklahoma was saying that we didn't have to shut down. And so by moving as many people as we could out of the building to work from home, it allowed the people that had to be at Kicker to work to have a much less or lower load of people in the building. So it made it safer for everyone because we could practice social distancing. It allowed the people who are still at Kicker to have a bigger environment to be around with fewer people to run into. And Steve said, if you can do your job, we want you to move. And not a single person got laid off. Those of us that can have been working from home. And we've had some fantastic months, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if it's good or bad. I'm one of the guys who've been working at home for the last 6 weeks, and my wife, she's been doing the same. My wife works for the company as well, and so we still love each other.
I know your wife.
Yeah,
we had great conversation. We made all kinds of fun of you.
I know. Neither one of us have been buried in the yard yet, so I guess that says a lot of good things about us. But as a company, we did everything we could to still stay functional and whole, and for everyone to be able to maintain their life and their lifestyle, and it's worked for us, and that's been a great thing. And it's because of Steve. He wanted to do everything we could. It's if you know Steve, for him, it's obviously it's his faith in God, then it's his family, and then it's his business, and he considers his business family. So even though we take third place, it really ties for second, because nothing comes in at first place except for his faith and what he believes in. And he believes that all his success in that company is by living an ethical and moral life and trying to make all the decisions of the company based on that. And he doesn't want to let go of family. I mean, we remember, I've talked about it with some people. I know I've talked about it with you, Derek, and with you, Rob. I mean, we went through a hard time once when the economy took a dump back in that 08 time frame, and it was the first time in Kicker's history ever that Steve was forced to lay people off. I can tell you, we went through some growing pains there, some lessons, and he never wants to be in that position again. And we make decisions every day to make sure that we are making a quality product, but that we're also making smart business decisions so that our dealers are happy, our consumers are happy, and Kicker itself is going to be around for another 50 years to be able to do what we're doing.
And you're working on those home audio subs we talked about, right?
Do me a favor. Do me a favor. Okay.
Call them up.
Rob, all I need you to do is build me the box. I'll get the square sub. We'll get a plate amp. We'll make one, and then we'll get 1 million views, and it'll push the point.
I've been direct with Kicker now. I've started my 25th year, and prior to that, I was a rep in the field, and Kicker was one of the lines I represented, and that was for about a 2-year span. And then prior to that, I was in a retail store that I basically ran from the ground up for about 7-8 years. So I've been associated with the brand for a really long time, and I can tell you, from the days I was working the retail counter, and we sold AV for home and car, not just car. From that day, I always was bugging my rep. And then when I was a rep, I was bugging Kicker Direct. And then when I went to work as an employee, I knocked on Steve's door and said, "Hey, could we do a home subwoofer?" I've been asking for it forever.
So, the easiest answer for that, right, is you have a competitor. They're 2 letters, JL.
Yes, sir.
And they make a badass home subwoofer.
Yes, they do.
And
several of them.
Like the headphones you have on your head, Kip, you guys make those because people buy headphones. Everyone needs a subwoofer enclosure in their living room.
I don't disagree.
But it was funny when I was there. I was talking to the guy that was designing the headphones, or one of your designers. We were looking at some products that I still can't talk about, and he has an image on the wall of headphones that he designed, and one of them is a square woofer headphone. And it was so, I go, "Why didn't you guys make these?" And they're like, "No one liked them." I was like, "Who didn't like that? It's a freaking woofer." And it reminds me of there's a company who makes those the concert speakers that the guitar guys use. They make headphones now. Marshall.
Oh, Marshall. Yeah.
Marshall makes a little Marshall stack headphone. And they're so cheesy as shit looking, but people buy them because they look like Marshall stacks. And it's like, I even was like, I just think they're cool looking, but I know who I am, so I do dumb shit. But what I was going to say, you put up Bobby Burkett's comment there. Bobby's the guy who says "D's nuts." So story about Bobby, when we were going to California, he lives in California, and he calls me up and he says, "Hey man, I'm picking you guys up at the airport." And I go, "No, that's okay." He goes, No, I'm picking you guys up at the airport. I go, "All right, fine. You're picking us up at the airport." So him, his wife, and his daughter, when we were in California, they drove like 2.5 hours to pick us up at the airport. We spent the whole day with him and his family. We took him to, I'm totally going to forget the name of the car museum we went to, took him out to dinner, brought him a bunch of t-shirts, had a great time. Really cool. But it was weird. It was like, we're all crammed in his Dodge Ram listening to our Kicker speakers. But yeah, it was cool.
I'm not sure if maybe Steve has like a side gig here for YouTube, but we had somebody give $50 twice just for laughs. 89.88.
Wow! For you guys.
Thank you, whoever you may be behind that
Somebody's
name there.
getting pizza this week.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate that. And
no Little Caesars.
Yeah, we don't need no more pizza. Maybe some vegan pizza or something.
Dude.
That is true. I'm working since this work from home thing. I'm trying to lose some weight, and it's not working yet, but I'm working on it.
My doctor. Oh, go ahead.
No, so if you three guys, every chance you get, if you want to drop an email to Steve or poke on his door or poke the bear, as I like to call it, I would love for us to do a home subwoofer. The thing with Steve, and he's honest about it, he says, I'm scared about diversifying too far too fast because I don't want to lose focus on the support where we're strong, which is obviously in the 12-volt arena. People who know the story about the company, it started in Pro Sound. Trust me, Steve and I have had many a conversation in his heart. He would love to come out with a line of Pro Sound, like semi-Pro Sound or DJ type products. But it's just the resources we have, which is the people and the money. We can only spread it around so far in development. And so it's not that he wouldn't like to do a home sub. He and I had that honest conversation. He's just concerned about spreading resources too thin. And it's I get his point too, although I sold home and car. So to me, it's one store, but he worries about whether our distribution channel, our rep channel and everything else, and even internally tech support, are we ready to make that leap?
Yeah, obviously it's a huge decision. It's not as easy as us saying, "Oh, just build you a box and put a square subwoofer and an amplifier on the back."
Out of pure pettiness, I do it out of pettiness, just like Dean was saying, because JL makes one, and actually, I really like JL a lot. But just like I seen a W7 rack in it was just numbered that way and labeled that way. I would have skipped that if I owned a place. It wouldn't have been a W7, it'd been W6, or not even W6. It'd been
anything.
Yeah, we just wouldn't have W's. There would be no W's.
No W's, no J's, and no L's.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
You know, obviously, it's really a small industry, and I'm friends with several guys at JL. And if you go back into the Wayback Machine, when we introduced the first square subwoofer, the L7, I had the conversation with a couple guys from down there, and they're like, "Man, why are you just trying to play off of us? You know, we've got the W7, and so you guys come out the L7, and it's just trying to copy us and everything." And I listened to what they had to say and smiled. And of course, we're having drinks at a bar. And I laughed and I looked at them. I said, "You guys know what L7 means, right?" And they go, "Well, you're just trying to." I said, No. I said, L7. and I said, and they looked at me and went, "Oh." I said, "It's our internal code name for square subwoofer, because when we're out in public, it took us 3.5 years to develop that first square subwoofer. So if we were out at a training or in public and we needed to talk about the project, it was referred to as L7, and L7 meant square. And it was supposed to just be an internal code name. It wasn't even supposed to stick. And when we got to the end, as far as naming the product, it stuck. And so it became L7. But yeah, the guys at JL, they like ribbing me and going, "You're trying to copy W7." I'm like, "No, it's not." And I said, "Here's why." And when I told them and showed it to them, like, "Oh, we never thought of it like that." So it's the code name for square.
You don't want to let any secrets out, because Bart, the secret keeper ninja, will appear out of nowhere and slit your throat. I'm not talking about, little guy coming that's like.
Yeah, he can sneak up on you. He's short enough to do that.
Oh yeah, he's quiet. He moves like a ninja. Yeah, he's a little pilot dude. Talk about a guy with so much talent. My God, man, that guy is like. You guys, we're talking about Bart, which is what's his title there?
He is the director of product development, if I've got that right. It may be a VP level now. I apologize if I got it wrong.
He's the secret keeper, but this guy has talent beyond any. This guy can make anything. Like for his church, they made a whole Monsters Inc. set, life size. It was incredible. And he's a big Halloween fan. He had a giant tarantula up on the up above the door, and then he paints, which is and he paints beautiful stuff. And then he's into models, so he does Star Trek. He made all these fiber optic crazy models that you're just like, "Did you buy that?" "No, I made it." And you're like, "You suck." And he's a pilot, so he flies planes.
You know, the cool part about him being a pilot, and this goes back several years, but Bart has his own small engine plane. It's not, people say, a lot of times people go, "Well, don't you guys have a private jet or a corporate jet?" I'm like, "No, we all fly Southwest just like the rest of y'all." Yeah. But Bart has a passion for airplanes, and he has a small, I don't remember the type, but it's a small single engine plane, and he's a pilot. He loves to fly. Band. Yeah, probably wind up the squirrels. But funny thing is, there is actually a fairly decent Mexican food restaurant over in Ponca City, which is about 45-minute drive from here, and it's in the airport. So it's a Mexican restaurant in the airport. And so Bart came to me one day and he said, "What are you doing for lunch?" I go, "I really don't have any plans." And he said, "Come on, let's go." Okay. So I get in the car with Bart and we go out to the Stillwater Airport, which at that time was just a private airport. It wasn't an American Airlines hub at that point.
It's still not either. It's okay. Don't kid yourself.
Someday it might be a terminal. But we go out there and Bart, we got in the plane and we flew over to Ponca City, and the only reason we flew over there was to go to Enrique's and have lunch. So that was my first experience learning that Bart was a pilot. I didn't even know he was until that experience. That was kind of cool to, for lunch, fly to Ponca City for lunch at the airport.
So was Bart arguing Star Trek over Star Wars, Dean?
No. There's no arguing with that. He's a Star Trek fan. Yeah. And justifiably. No, we were talking with the engineers. So there's a group of engineers.
So I can discount them immediately. If they're talking Star Trek over Star Wars, I can't even understand what they're talking about.
They're engineers. You probably can't understand anything they're talking about because they operate on trust me. When you talk to Fernando, you could have a conversation with Fernando because Fernando is like self-taught engineer. Really down to earth guy. He has his own YouTube channel where he does inspirational stuff and has a really unique outlook on life. Great guy. The other guys are engineers. They went to college and they were engineers, and you can point them out and go, he's an engineer. He's not. He's an engineer. He's not. They're all nice guys. Like some of the best guys there for sure. There's no doubt about it. Like the gentleman I spent time with, he wasn't nervous, which, when you're talking to a camera, like when we do interviews, it's like I have to have the conversation with them. Like, look, this isn't live. This is pre-recorded. If you say something wrong, don't worry about it. We're going to edit it out. Just keep talking. And I explain how this all works. So you don't have to be nervous. If you need to stop, we can stop. And that's great. And the engineer I got time with totally understood. There was only like 2 or 3 times where he was like, can I say that differently? I'm like, you can say it any way you want. But it's like you turn a camera on any of the other guys. They're like, whoa, no, I don't want to be in that. It's not my thing. And it's like, okay, cool. But Joe knew who to partner me with that would do that. And it was great. It was a lot of fun. For sure. This is the best 12-hole talk ever. Well, it's definitely the longest.
Yeah, it is. It's probably the longest, or close to one of the longest, but it has been an excellent show.
Dean will never get invited on again.
I've got somebody knocking on my door here, so I'm going to have to drop. So thanks again, everybody, for your time, and thanks everybody here for joining us. We had quite a few live viewers tonight, so we'll see you guys next time.
All right, man.
See you, everybody.
See ya.
Later.